episode of The Daily Blend. I'm your host, AC, and joining us in studio today is Dr. Elizabeth Wilson. You're an OBGYN at Women's Health Associates.
Correct.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
You know, I was prompted to try to get you on the show because I'm a woman of a certain age, and you start thinking more as you get to this age range about is this menopause? Am I in premenopause? Like, you think a lot about that. I mean, I do as a woman. My friends and I talk about it a lot, but it's not something we hear discussed openly. So I was like, you know what? This is March. It's Women's History Month. Let's talk openly about it.
Okay.
And so I was very excited to be connected to you because I know you're very passionate about this topic.
Thank you. Yeah, I like learning about it. I'm always learning about it. I'm not going to claim to be an expert, but I kind of like to be an expert of experts, like going to different people and hearing what different people say and helping patients find experts to help them.
Yes. And so we were talking a little bit before the show. So tell us how you got very interested in learning more about this.
I've always had a bit of an interest from my mentor when I first started in private practice. Dr. William Trumbauer had been around for a long time. He gave me a lot of books. He was always into bioidentical hormones. He was always into a more holistic approach. And I kind of always had that in the back of my head. But probably about the time that I started experiencing changes, I became much more interested. And I had a good friend who was involved in functional medicine. And I went to a conference that wasn't mainstream. It was a little more, out there, but it was focused on hormones. And so I thought, this will be really good for me. I'm going to, deep dive into hormones. But they put hormones into the context of the whole body and how it affected so many other things and the other hormones in the body that you don't think about when you're just thinking sex hormones. And it was just sort of a mind-blowing experience for me. And I've just been trying to learn more ever since.
That is really amazing because I don't know that I've ever thought about hormones that way. Just what you hear, and a lot of it is kind of what's passed down for me, particularly, or I imagine a lot of women, like what you heard your mom say or your grandma say about hormones, and that's good. That's all you know.
Yeah, well, and I kind of in the culture, hormones and women have like almost a negative connotation.
Absolutely.
And people don't really sit down and really parse it all out and how the body's functioning and how it functions as we age.
So when you have patients who come in who say, Dr. Wilson, I'm dealing with this, like I'm having sweats at night, or, I feel like my hair is thinning or whatever. I'm actually naming all the things that I'm.
Got it.
This is very vulnerable. All the things that are starting to happen. Do you just say, you're in maybe you're in premenopause, or what's your process to walk somebody through that time?
Well, I probably start, I kind of have this great chart in my office that kind of explains kind of hormones, in normal functioning years and perimenopause and menopause. And I kind of just start to educate them right off the bat. Like, this is sort of the way things are working at this point in your life generally. And this is what we see at this point. And I try to understand from their symptoms, maybe where they are on that. That's very general. And then usually I offer to either give them, it sounds kind of corny, I offer podcasts. I listen to lots of podcasts, but like, I can usually pick out one or two that I think may interest them so they can sit and think more about what they're dealing with. And then I'll often offer to check a lot of blood work to kind of dig into the specifics. And so like blood work can tell you not always everything and not always a diagnosis, but you can see little trends and you can start to like help a patient focus their attention on things that may be happening in their own body.
Did you find, I know you mentioned that you became more interested in it as you got to a certain point. Like, did that cause you to like, I really need to understand this more, like for yourself, for your patients?
I mean, yes. And I guess I started probably experimenting on myself a lot. It just because I knew that there were, hormones around. Luckily, I have partners that are my friends and they kind of let me do whatever I wanted. But obviously, I had to understand it. I mean, but I was kind of throwing myself out there. And, it sounds awful. You're probably originally driven by the vanity of like, I've got to stop,
truly,
the waist, the skin, like what is going on here. But again, that conference that I went to, when you start thinking about like what is actually happening to your health or when your waist is increasing, what does that tell you about what's happening in the rest of your body? It just, you can't ignore that. And and it just, then you feel obligated to help patients understand that as well.
I really love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Listening, like listening to your patients and really helping them understand, as opposed to just saying, here, take this, or,
Well, and because many people may have a different path, many people may have different goals. People have different biology, different family history,
Yes.
different experiences, different traumas even. And so you kind of have to help them put all that together. And it's, I may have mentioned one of my favorite mentors, who's a chiropractor in town, pointed out that the root word of doctor is teacher. And, I didn't learn that in medical school, but
Wow.
I feel like it's doing me more good now to have that approach.
I would imagine so. So before we wrap up, I would like to ask you, like, you see all these products popping up, right? Like, especially if you're a social media person.
Sure.
Like, we're
Sure.
talking about this right now. I'm
Yeah.
sure when I get home, when I go on social media, there'll be like 17 things
Yeah.
popping up,
Yeah.
saying, hey, this is for, menopause, or this is for, do you suggest people try those? Do they talk to their doctor about them first?
I mean, I think having a conversation with your doctor is good. Understanding what the ingredients are and what the purpose of those ingredients
Okay.
are is good. When I started taking a lot of supplements myself, I also realized, like, is this drowning in my diet? Is this doing
Yes.
even any good? Do I, you kind of have to work with the whole picture. And so if there's somebody who will, sit down and help you think through what's in the ingredients and what the goals of those ingredients are, what are you doing in your lifestyle to either help or hinder those ingredients, that sounds like a good plan.
That is very good. And you're helping me very much right now as I'm thinking about, I probably should be thinking holistically.
Yeah.
More holistic as opposed to just like this one area.
And that's the way, our current medical system is extremely siloed.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of talking between specialists, and I don't know, I think we could use more of that.
I think you're right. Dr. Wilson, thank you so much for joining us. It was wonderful to have you.
Oh, thank you.
Such good information.
Thank you.
Such good information.
Great.
Hopefully I'll have you back.
Okay, very good. I can talk forever.
I love that.
That's my biggest problem now, is that I can't get through an exam.